Business Inside Out, certainly their careers website, so he'll be able to answer any questions and talk them through the journey of Empower, which is what we'll do for this session. And also Ellie here from Atkins, who we've been working with for the last 5 years, I think. Yep. We did your previous careers site, and we've just recently launched your completely revamped, brand new candidate-focused, content-led careers website, which you're going to talk us through. So I'm going to ask just the guys a few questions to tell us about, some of their experiences, highlight some of their challenges, which I think will resonate with you guys, and then we'll have a sort of Q&A at the end. So, Ellie, if we start with you, you've obviously we've just recently launched your brand new site. It's had some great results and what have you. But you were in quite an interesting position when we started this latest site, because I believe that your website was owned by marketing rather than recruitment. So you you had a challenge for lots of different reasons to take ownership and to deliver actually what the market needed. So tell us about your journey. What did you go through to get to where you are now?
Sure. You're absolutely right. When we had our original career site, it was owned by our marketing team. Why that decision was made, I don't know. But what that meant is several different things. When it's owned by a marketing team, they don't always understand the whole candidate journey and the recruitment focus around it. So it was a very basic, very prescriptive. It wasn't interactive. There was no focus on what experience is the candidate having by using our website. So it was quite challenging, and the content was also very corporate as well. Which you typically find when a marketing team are looking after something. It's the same team that looked after our corporate website. So to a certain extent, it was just a mirror of what our corporate website looked like. So when we revamped it and did our nice all singing or dancing version we have now, it was really, really important that we put the candidate at the forefront of the experience, making sure that it's quick, it's easy, it's interactive, that they're really understanding about us as an organisation. And we actually pulled it back into recruitment. We felt it was really important for it to sit with us, because we're the ones that are dealing with the candidates on a daily basis. We know what they're looking for. And that allowed us to also, as well as implement a lot of new things as part of the process, including how candidates now apply, to also have a complete refresh of content, what our content was aligned to and what the candidates are looking for.
And obviously there would have been some resistance, I should imagine, internally. How did you handle the various stakeholders within the business to reassure them that they could let go?
Yeah. We were quite lucky that the head of HR is also now the head of marketing, so it was quite a smooth, easy process, and he was incredibly bought into it. He's the one who wanted to drive it forward. We had his backing, so that was nice and easy. I think one of the biggest challenges for us in terms of buy-in has actually been around the content rather than the actual physical website. So for us, content is really, really difficult to get right on a website. We can do the pieces that we need to do that are focused around what we call our 6 pillars, which are our culture. But there's also business-aligned elements to our website, which is where we have to link in with the business and the marketing teams to get that information. It's so difficult to get content out of teams or individuals in a business that you're not close to. And that was our biggest surprise, I think. We looked at it, I think I said to you, DJ, didn't I? From the November through to maybe end of financial year, I said, yeah, we'll be able to get this up and running, we'll have all the content, it'll look amazing. That wasn't the case.
Took a while.
It was. So, getting managers brought into, again, why they need to do it is difficult. They don't all understand why it's important, if we've got a corporate website, that they need to have a presence which is skewed towards a candidate in a different way on a recruitment website as well.
And DJ, what about Empower? So they started virtually with nothing, and so implementing this, the career site that they've got was a big shift in strategy, and they're very content-led now, thankfully. So what was their kind of journey and their experience?
I think Empower's quite interesting because 7 years ago, they were 92% agency reliant. So they had basically the way recruitment ran was a case of hiring manager would come to the resourcing team, and resourcing team would took the requisition and phone their nearest agency, and that was basically they felt was recruitment. And new strategy needed to happen. They brought in a new resourcing manager, and he looked at the website and he took feedback from the people and said, what do you think of our website? And they said, well, yeah, it really looks nice. Yeah, it really looks pretty. And he said he had picked up the phone to me literally about the week before he joined and said, can you have a look at our website? And I said, okay, yeah, no problem. Had a look at it. Can you tell me, this was the classic, can you tell me what ATS we're using? I was like, hold on, you're the one that's joining. But basically, I looked at it and said, okay, came back to me and said, "Are you using Lumes Talent Link, using their standard web integration? Oh, and by the way, Google can't find your jobs." He said, bingo. Because Adam, who's initiated it, and then Adrian took over, was recruitment agency background, and he'd been used to active candidates finding jobs on their website. So the first thing, he went to the business and said, okay, we need a direct solution. We need to become not agency reliant and actually become self-sufficient. And the first thing I need to do, apart from recruiting a team, is actually have a website that attracts candidates. So the first thing on their website, it was, to be honest, it was about getting active candidates. If somebody was looking for a job that didn't know about Empower, then actually they could find it on Google. So if they were searching Google, they'd actually find it, because he knew that that's how we'd found them in agency world. And the other thing is, the case of Empower in Swindon is stuck out on Wimble Hill website, industrial estate, with no branding. You wouldn't even know they were there. In Solihull, they're at one of their other big locations. You'd only know if you drove down Princess Road, Princess Street, can't remember, and actually saw the logo. And actually, as everybody says, who wants to work for an energy company? The press pillory, put them to the pillory. They're literally throwing rotten cabbages at them. So for him, it was about making sure that if you were looking for a job in those locations, you could find them. And to be honest, that was how it's sold to the business. If they had an average, I think the average fee at the time across all their recruitment was about 3,500. They were recruiting 950 people through recruitment agencies a year. His challenge, he said, okay, so if I could halve that, I'm going to save over £1 million. Well, that's going to pay for my website, and it's going to pay for the upgrade on the the Talent Link, Lumes Talent Link platform, and it's going to pay for some of my team. And in the first year, they saved 1.8 million direct from agencies. In the first 9 months, 1.8 million. So the business case was very much about actually the cost savings from agencies and job boards, £150,000 from job boards. So that was how they got the buy-in initially. Content, that's another story. I'll let Ellie talk about, one of the things that at Atkins, it was very, from James Cullen's point of view, it was about the inspiring projects, wasn't it?
It was, yeah. What we talked about from a project point of view previous to that on our careers website, or we didn't really talk much about projects at all. So it was about showcasing almost a bit of a USP for us. So how do we stand out from Arups, Balfour Beatty, those sorts of organisations that are also recruiting a mechanical engineer in London? How do we look different to them when essentially our job descriptions are going to be asking for the same sorts of things? And it's about making ourselves stand out, and inspiring projects for us was one of those, making our projects visible on the website, easily accessible, but also look good and be interactive and include video content, include testimonials where we need to. And that's still a journey that we're going on at the moment, and that references again how long it takes sometimes to get that content together. But yeah, making sure that we've got inspiring projects on there, but also that the content is really tailored to the culture of the organisation and what our organisation do. So one of the hashtags, for example, that runs directly through our website and through all our social media channels is Inside Atkins. And for us, it's key to showcase what's it like inside Atkins, what's it like to work on these projects, what's it like to be part of some of the different communities. So one of the big things that we've just done earlier this year is we've set up a specific LGBT community. Now, if you went on our website, you'd have absolutely no idea that we have that internally. You'd have no idea that it's something we champion, we push. We attended Pride for the first time this year. We showcased it on our social channels, but that's there for such a finite period of time. And what we're working at the moment is actually to make sure that anybody who goes on our website can see that we're an inclusive employer, but not just that we're telling them we're an inclusive employer, that content comes from our staff as well, that it's real, that it's genuine, that it's case studies, that it's stories, that it's videos from those individuals. And that's when you can start to see how much work has to go into getting the right content on there.
I think that's a really good point, actually, because at the end of the day, there's a lot of talk about employer brand, and that's something that once the Empower site had launched, and effectively it was attracting active candidates. And an example, I remember, I think it was Adam at the time, phoned me up, and he said, DJ, we've just advertised about it was about 3 months after we launched the site. He said, we advertised for a credit management job, £70,000 job, and he said, and I've had 30 applications. Can you look back and see where they came from? And we looked back and said, okay, well, about half of those came from Google. And he said, okay, is there any way that you can tell me who this person actually got the job? Can you tell me where they came from? I said, well, okay, yes, we can, because we've got the source tracking in. He emailed me the chap's name and email address, and I said, okay, they came from Google. And he was like, wow. He said, we've actually hired somebody that basically searched in Google for a credit management job and basically applied. And to him, that was something that he went back to the business with. So from that perspective, it was almost a case of, okay, I now know that active candidates can find our website. But we're not really telling people about what it's like to work here. And that started the journey about the employee stories. And one of the things Adrian talked about a couple of months back, actually, at one of the events run by Mark and the team, was about employer brand. Because there's no product differentiation with the energy companies. You turn on a light, it could be EDF, it could be Empower, it could be SSE, it could be anybody. What differentiates them is the people. So, like Ellie said, it was about, okay, how do we get the stories? What do candidates actually want to understand about us? And essentially, it was a case of we wanted to see. One of the guys said it's a case of, what is my desk? Where is my window? Because they wanted to see where they sat in the organisation and what they saw around them. And it was a really good little piece of just a description that we then went basically out to the business. So Adrian and his resourcing team went out to the business when they were recruiting and said, look, can we interview people that are doing the job? You know, doing the job that you're recruiting for, and ask some questions, why they work there, what they do, and everything else. And very quickly, we saw that was started then becoming content on the website that, as Ellie said, you can share socially. And we literally, it was a case of, once a week, something like that, they would do an interview, get a bit of content, so get it onto the website, they would share it. So it wasn't onerous, because it was literally got a team of 10 or 11 working on this, and they work upon it in terms of where the roles are at the moment. And what we found is that people were clicking on it. They were coming through on Facebook. They weren't necessarily, they were reading this stuff, they were engaging with it, they were coming back to the website. And now we're 4 years down the line of doing content and social, and we're getting around 10-12% of the actual conversions, and that's people coming through and actually doing something and actually applying for a job, actually coming from social now. But they're not landing on a job, they're landing on this video, this little blog about day in the life. So it's really interesting how it naturally evolved, and these people, and what we found out was that people were really interested in what it really was like. They didn't want an over-corporate video. They wanted real videos. They wanted to hear about real people. To the point that we actually found out that a lot of the contact centre staff in the North East loved working at Empower, nice place to work, but it had a great retail part just down the road, so they could stop off on the way home and get stuff for dinner. We wouldn't have known that if we hadn't started talking to people. So it was really interesting. But then it's a case, I think, Ellie, the next big one with the revamp of the website was about that application piece. Mm-hmm.
Well, that's one of the key things is that we've talked about power of content. Obviously, I think we can all appreciate how important that is. Getting jobs onto Google and the candidate experience, and a big part of these sites is the ATS integration, isn't it? And not a lot of people necessarily be aware of this. But talk us through that, because that's one of the key differentiators of the websites, and allowed all these kind of three things to be joined together. So talk us about that, what it literally meant, on the grassroots level, and actually the impact it's made across the site.
Yeah. So if I go back to old world of our application process, it was pretty laborious from a candidate point of view. So we did all this great stuff previously to direct them to our website. It wasn't the best, but people were still finding their way to our website. And then we were asking them to apply. And as part of that application process, we were asking them to fill out quite a lengthy form at the beginning of it. And it then asks them to create a username and password to continue with the rest of the process, which doesn't sound too bad. Our password had to have a capital letter, a lowercase letter, a number, a symbol, a quote from Shakespeare. It was just ridiculous to try and set up a password. And we found that when we looked in some detail around our applications, 50% of everybody that clicked apply to us dropped off and didn't complete an application. And when we followed up on those individuals, a lot of people would say they gave up trying to create a password because they just couldn't be bothered, it was too challenging. Or what we also found is when we went back to those individuals, we asked them the question, are you still interested in Atkins? Would you still be interested if we had opportunities? And we actually made, not everybody came back to us, but we actually made about 10 hires of people that we'd been back to that had sat incomplete. And that showed us that really good people were trying to apply to us, but simply just couldn't get through for whatever reason. Probably password, probably it's a long form. People just want something that's nice and quick and easy. And, you know, the times have changed. People want things instantly now, don't they? So that for us was key. We needed to look at our application process. So we worked really closely with Format and we looked at having an API. So what we've got in place now is actually a really nice quick apply form. We ask for really, really basic details from our candidates up front, and then they don't actually have to complete anything. Just quick questions, attach the CV, and then they get a nice thank you for your application, we'll be in touch. And everything else that we collect, further information around their address, equal opportunities, that sort of data. They then get an email that comes directly out to them that serves them with their username and with their password, so they're having to do less in that process. Sits in their inbox, they just need to log back in and complete those details. And we found that by doing it that way, last run we did, we had 77% of people were complete applications, weren't they? Which for us is huge, because it was only last November we were having a 50% drop-off. So it's made a massive difference to us and our applications. And everything we try and pull back is all about the candidate experience. And when we've started asking people again, how did you find applying? They always comment on how quick, easy and smooth the process is with us in terms of getting their application in.
And I think that, yeah, the candidate experience, a lot is talked about. And a lot of what has happened with Empower over the last 7 years has been learnt from retail. So we've been taking the lead from retail. And I think Ellie says that, you know, quite clear there is, we're all used to buying things really easily. So when it comes down to actually applying for a job, we expect that same experience. We don't, you know, I always liken it to if you went onto John Lewis' website, you basically went to have a look at something and then you were kicked into their stock ordering system to actually order that product. So you'd get lost. And I always love it with Taleo. It's the first bit is in terms of when you get there, it says, welcome, you are not signed in. And it's a case of really, that's really welcoming, thanks. But it was a similar thing with Empower. It was about what we did with them. It was about what we call conversion rate optimization. So it was about looking at all the little steps that people take and what they actually do. Amazon spend a fortune on this. We're moving things a pixel, you know, analysing things. Now, Empower didn't go to that extent, but you know, at the end of the day, they're not attracting huge volumes of candidates, so they need to, to get every single one that they can into the recruiter's hands. And it was about the little things. It was about trying to keep as much of the capture on the website, so that actually they were pushed automatically through to the actual ATS. And it's interesting because talking about applicant tracking systems, one of the key things they moved from Lumes Talent Link to Success Factors recently, and and it was a group decision. So it was RWE Group went out, they're a SAP business. It was a case of, right, here we go, probably done in a deal in terms of, okay, we'll throw in the web module free of charge and Success Factors free of charge because you've got buying SAP. And Adrian actually looked at it and said, we've got to keep our career site as is. We can't use the standard applicant tracking module because I risk losing £3 million in revenue. Sorry, not revenue, cost savings. So actually you put that onto in terms of what their net margin is. Can you actually cover that in terms of sales? And the business said, no. You keep what you're doing at the moment, but you do have to use Success Factors. And the integration post, excuse me, that's me telling I'm almost up to time. So what they looked at is in terms of, Adrian said to me, he said, DJ, we can't afford to lose candidates, but I'm being told this is the only way Success Factors works. I said to him, there's no such thing as, that. There's not just one way. Let's have a look at it. And we basically went and looked at actually could we do something as similar to Taleo. Now, the first question we asked of the implementation team, so have you got the API license? Oh, what's that? Adrian sort of like rolled his eyes heavenwards and sort of went, I can't believe they don't actually know what the APIs are. So he said, can work around that? And I said, yeah, we can work around it. So effectively, we keep the application on the website, so they complete their basic details, and then they get pushed through to success factors. Not quite as sophisticated as the Taleo, but it means that if somebody doesn't complete an application form, on the website they've got all their details. So the recruiters are all ex-recruitment consultants, they've all got years of experience, they pick up the phone. They email and say, we haven't got your application, was there a problem or everything else? So it really is important, isn't it, in terms of converting every single person?
Yeah, absolutely. Particularly when you're in a competitive market, it's a candidate-led market, and most of the people you're looking for are passive candidates.
Yeah.
So
I think one question that comes up quite often, Ellie, and it's probably a good one for you to answer, is you mentioned about the fact that you wanted to have all this content on the website. What would you say to people who are sort of like looking at this and saying, we want to do everything in one day?
Yeah, yeah. We started this project last November. If you were to look on our website today, it's only early careers that's been updated so far. I'm lucky enough that I've got somebody who works for me full-time, who is dedicated just towards our social media strategy and our website content. And it has been really, really hard work getting the content. She spends her time out in the business talking to people, looking at what projects are happening, looking at what's happening right across the board, from inspiring projects through to volunteer days to social. And we've been able to get some really, really great content off the back of that. We had a story that came through the other week. For flexible working, we don't just want to keep talking about mothers that are returning from work, we've got children, and we try and showcase different stories. And we found somebody up in Scotland who works flexibly because in her part-time she's a professional ballroom dancer. So she works 4 days a week to spend one day then doing dedicated training towards it. And we've managed to get her to do a video talking about herself, taking some video at her ballroom dancing classes, and that is more real to anybody. But getting those stories is so hard. So I would say, like I said earlier, we thought we could nail this within 6 months and have an amazing looking website. It's taken a lot of time for two of us who are dedicated towards it to get that content. So don't underestimate how hard it is. And it's not just about having content now, it's about always having content that you can refresh and replace, because it becomes stagnant very, very quickly and people don't want to see the same thing all the time. We're already talking, weren't we, the other day about the banners.
Yeah.
They've only been on there for just over 6 months, but already we're all bored of them. So they already need updating. So it's a constant cycle and it's a big piece of work.
But I think the bit to take away is actually not if you don't take the approach because I must have this done, I must have this all ready for launch, but actually it's a constant project. It's a little and often. It actually, you don't become overwhelmed. And I think that's something that, you know, with Empower, it was a case of once they realised that, the website actually is constantly changing. It's a little bit, it's changing every single day. There's a new blog going up, there's a new image going up, there's a new video going up, and it may just be one thing, but over a period of time, that very quickly, the actual website starts actually to change. So if somebody looked at the website, and I'll be honest, the Empower platform is actually 7 years old. It hasn't been upgraded because of the group changes and everything else, but it's had 3 design refreshes, and the content has stayed consistent in terms of it's continually changing. So they've got an archive of content that goes back 4 years, that if somebody clicks on a job in customer services, it's going to pull something that may actually have been posted quite a long time ago, but it's still relevant, and they haven't had to redo it. So I think...
Yeah, because ours was a lift and shift when we went live with it. So
yeah.
People need to not be afraid to go live with a new website and think, it's got to look vastly different. Ours didn't. The content was exactly the same, but it had a different feel to it because it was a different platform. And then we had the time then to be really considered about what we do, how we change it. And there needs to be a reason for changing it. Ours is aligned to the 6 pillars that our social media strategy is aligned to as well, so that somebody doesn't visit us on Facebook or Twitter and think, oh, that looks amazing, and then visit our website and think, this isn't what your Facebook page says. So there's got to be that consistency there as well between what you do on social and your website and anywhere else, so the messaging is right.
Ellie, before we move on to the questions, because I'm conscious, thanks to the DJ's alarm there, that we're pressed for time, I'm interested to know, because you're clearly very passionate about this, what's your favourite bit of the website and why?
Oh,
what's the best bit?
Our specific website. Do you know what? I think it's when we go live with the new version.
Yeah.
It's not on the one at the moment, but what we've done is we've had really interactive buttons put on there. Before it was you had to direct from one page to another. And like I said, if you go on to our diversity tab now, I think for me that's going to be the most powerful piece moving forward, because it talks about ParentNet, which is an internal network of ours. It talks about our disability network. It talks about, in quite a lot of detail, LGBT, which has got all the pictures from Pride in there and our launch event. And I think the stories in there and the videos, like the volunteer videos as well. There's some really nice videos from one of our members of staff who went to volunteer in the camps in Calais. It just feels real, and the reason I like it so much is that probably 95% of the content on those pages is from our staff, and they were really brought into and really enthusiastic about putting that together for us as well. So it's their story via our site.
I think that's a very good point. I think out of all our career sites, and specifically Empower and Atkins, it's actually the content, the real content. It's not the corporate content that actually makes a difference.
And just one more thing. I mean, what's the impact's been in terms of, engagement with candidates? And have you seen it in real terms?
Yeah. It's difficult because we haven't gone live with some of the new content. So, like I said, we've had really positive response from candidates in terms of the application process. But where we have gone live with new content on early careers, we looked at, didn't we, our launch for Go Live, and the traffic was pretty consistent. The day we went live with our graduate campaign, the traffic to the website was phenomenal. And that's all new look, new feel. And again, with our content for the graduate pages, what we had to be really careful not to do is assume what our graduates wanted to hear in our apprentices and placements, because it's very easy for us sometimes to say, right, we'll do this, we'll do that, that's what they want to see. And we made that assumption with our apprentices.
Yeah.
We assumed that the apprentice profiles, which were very prescriptive, day in the life, I do this, 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 we said, that's not going to interest an apprentice. It needs to be exciting, it needs to be dynamic, it needs to be more real to them. And we said, right, let's do a focus group though, just to check. We had a focus group, proposed all these new changes, and they all said, well, why would you do that? I don't want to know that. I want to know what an apprentice does every day. I've never done an apprenticeship, I don't know what they involve. Don't change it, what you've got on there resonates really well with me. So it's about being careful not to also assume with content, but yeah, our graduate pages have had a phenomenal hit rate since Go Live, and higher than we've ever had before, and I think it's because it's so easy to navigate around.
Yeah, I think it's two things. It's easy for them to find it, so people searching for graduate in Google or whatever. But it was literally 4 times. It literally went. The traffic was going like this, and then it suddenly went like that. Mm-hmm. Literally the day after launch, and I think it's easier to find, but the content's nicer.
Yeah, and it's split out. Before it was a real jumble. It was branded early careers, which it's still branded now. But it was right. Well, how do I find the right bit of early careers for me? Whereas when you go into the graduate campaign, the first thing you're hit with is a role finder, and that specifically helps you find the exact role that's right for you based on your interests, what you've done at university, and then it takes them through a really nice process. So I think that's made a massive difference.
Yeah, and it's got relevant videos and insight into people and things like that.
Yeah.
So that's cool.
Guys, thank you very much.